Hello, so I want to read out a disturbing report from the Metro newspaper. I'll read it out because it's not too long, and then I'll go on to talk about the issues. So just bear with me a second whilst I read this out. Bully only stopped attack when someone said, "Leave her, I think she's dead." A teenager has spoken about a brutal attack that only stopped when someone was heard saying, "Leave her, I think she's dead." Emily O'Reilly was knocked out and left in the gutter following the unprovoked attack as she made her way to a friend's house. She was pulled to the ground by her hair, repeatedly punched and kicked, and had her face stamped on in Darlaston, Walsall. When she regained consciousness, she realised that her phone and bracelet had been stolen and ran to a nearby pub, for help on Monday night. She said, "I turned around and saw this girl I knew. She demanded my phone and punched me in the head. I stuck my phone down my trousers, but she pulled down my jeans and grabbed my phone as well as my Pandora bracelet. The next thing I know, I'm just lying on the floor and she is just stamping on my face and kicking me. I remember being punched a lot too. I ran to a pub for help after I came back round, and even then I could see her returning to the area with more people looking for me. This was after a friend thought I was dead. She was still coming back looking for me. It has left me really scared. I'm in so much pain, I don't even want to go out anymore." Emily, who was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome when she was 6, has been left permanently disfigured as a result of the vicious robbery and unable to open her right eye. Her mother said she didn't recognize her daughter when she saw her at Walsall Manor Hospital. "It just didn't look like my daughter," she said. "There was blood everywhere. I just burst into tears when I saw her. I could not believe someone could do that to another person. I want people to see these pictures to see the impact these attacks can have, and that violence is just not the answer." She can't even open her eye. She keeps crying, but I can't tell because I can't see her tears through the swelling. She's been left permanently disfigured. As her mother, it breaks my heart to see her like this. You just don't have to think it would ever happen to your own child. Her mother added she has Asperger's, which makes her unaware when she's in a dangerous situation. The girl just took advantage of that and beat her within an inch of her life. All she wants to do is fit in as a teenage girl, but she hasn't been the same since, and I'm worried about the long term effects this could have. This sort of violence cannot continue on our streets. I think it's getting worse in Britain, and there needs to be harsher punishments for violent attacks, as they seem to be happening more often. A 16-year-old girl from Darlaston was arrested on suspicion of robbery and appeared at Wolverhampton Youth Court on Wednesday. The case was adjourned and she was granted bail to reappear at the same court March the 31st. Okay, this is an area I know quite well because I studied in Wolverhampton. That's a university I went to, and there are some tough areas around there. Um, to my American viewers, I don't mean tough in the same sense of inner city America, but tough in the sense that there's plenty of scumbags that will assault you for no reason. Um, this is disturbing, but it's by no means isolated. And I don't post this for sensationalism or to try and get views or something like that. I'd rather, to be honest, not even talk about it, but I think it is very important that these things aren't ignored. Firstly, this evil thug that done this to her needs to be incarcerated. There's absolutely no question. This must be a custodial sentence, must be. And if it's not, then I believe there should be peaceful protests to put pressure on this judge to reevaluate the case. I really, really, really think that this sort of crime, when we talk about serious crime, we talk about sex offences and arson and so on, and those are certainly serious crimes. But I feel that violence against a person, this sort of thuggish behaviour, is one that still doesn't get the level of scrutiny it deserves. Now, my immediate thought when reading this was that there are people out there, delusional fools, who still believe that prison doesn't have a purpose. I think of the Green Party. I was very scathing in my criticism of them, and this only reaffirms that. The Green Party website specifically says justice should not be based on punishment. Now, what sort of person are you if you look at a case like this and you try to argue that the person responsible shouldn't be punished I think, they present themselves as being compassionate on crime issues. They're the opposite. I take that to be an extreme view. And I think the Greens should really be scrutinised over this because their attitude to crime, in my opinion, is utterly pathetic. And they take pride in the fact that, oh, we don't go down the popular routes, but that really isn't the issue. The issue is about what is right and what is wrong. And when it comes to crime and justice, the Greens don't have any compass whatsoever. I'm focusing on the Greens because I think they're one of the most extreme examples, but there's certainly certain left wing factions of the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats that also have a pretty pathetic attitude to crime. I just cannot understand the mindset of someone who believes that a crime like this shouldn't result in severe punishment. It's not about revenge, it is about right. It is about right and wrong. And something like this simply cannot go without a very lengthy custodial sentence. It isn't just about it being right, it's about the fact that the person who done this is clearly a dangerous individual. Someone who's going to attack a vulnerable teenager is capable of anything. Well, actually, the perpetrator was another 16-year-old girl, but that indicates to me if she is capable of that at the age of 16, what's she going to be capable of at the age of 26? I mean, the desensitization that these thugs and thugettes must have. Um, if this doesn't result in a lengthy custodial sentence, I would say a minimum, an absolute minimum of 5 years, minimum. Personally, if I was a judge, I'd give her 10 years. Is anything short of a lengthy custodial sentence, if this scumbag gets let off because of her age or because she's female, then that judge should be publicly shamed. I know that sounds extreme, but there's nothing more important than protecting the public. And I do sometimes think, British people often get really worked up about sentencing, and with good reason. I don't think we're as bad as some countries. I mean, in Norway, the this person will be given a tap on the wrist and told to behave herself. The Nordic countries, I think, I really don't like their justice system. Um, that doesn't mean I necessarily support the American style, because when I actually put these points to the Green Party on their webpage, on their Facebook page, and some of them say, "Oh, you want an American style justice system?" Not necessarily. I mean, the American system, you lock up people for using cannabis, and you throw them in with Bloods and Crips. I think that's stupid. But I really want to reiterate and underscore that when you have a crime this heinous, this destructive, that changes someone's life, the only outcome has to be custodial. And people who say, oh, prison's failing, we should abolish prison, they need their head examined. They need to look at that photo and feel shame for advocating that the perpetrator isn't punished. A community sentence in this case, or just anger management classes or something, would be a perverse miscarriage as far as I'm concerned, a perverse miscarriage of justice. This was an unprovoked, vicious, and cowardly attack by a piece of shit. And this thuggette needs to be absolutely thrown behind bars, and the judge needs to tell her straight, you are a coward. The report rightly calls her a bully, but she's much worse than that. I think she's probably borderline psychopath. I mean, to do that to another person to that extent, for what? To steal something? It also shows something else. It shows that there is no shortage of dangerous females in this country. I think we're very, very misguided if we assume that just because an offender is female, they're not capable of doing scumbag things. And there should be absolutely no concept that because she's female, she should get a lighter sentence than if this was a male thug. I feel really, as far as I'm concerned, you wouldn't be human if you look at a report like this and don't feel at least some anger. And, people say, oh, it's sensationalist, but this isn't made up. This happened. And it makes me so angry because I've had a little taste of it myself. I've never been roughed up to that extent, but I have been assaulted. I had my jaw dislocated. Walking down the street, minding my own business, this guy just thumps me. That's it. And the thing is, people say, you can train in self defense and all that. That's all very well, but these things always come. Very rarely do you have time to prepare for it. A civilized society would hold dangerous people to account. And this is something that idiots like the Greens really just can't get into their heads. They just can't understand that in a case like this, flimsy talk about understanding the root causes and understanding the perpetrator and oh, it's all society's fault. I think that's disgusting, quite frankly. So what I done was I posted this on the Green Party Facebook page. Now, some would say that's trolling. I want to be clear about this. If it was an individual, then I shouldn't do that. But I take the view that political parties have to be held to account. So a political party aspires to govern. It is therefore right that they are scrutinised. And if people use evidence to scrutinise them, so be it. Thank goodness the Greens don't have more parliamentary representation because they are a dangerous party as far as I'm concerned. And this, by the way, like I said in the previous video, isn't just sort of some right wing source that I'm misjudging the Greens on. I have looked at their page, I have looked at their policies, and they specifically say we are opposed to punishment. It's there. So they can't then, they accuse me of taking things out of context and having no evidence for it, and then threw that at them because it's there. If that's not their position, then they should update it, change it. But I think it is their position because the Greens are astonishingly naive. They think that everyone can just get in a big circle and sing kumbaya and get on with each other. They're mind-numbingly naive, and that naivety is actually quite reckless. Cases like this, the purpose of jail isn't to change the offender. The purpose of jail is to punish the offender. Rehabilitation has its place, but only when someone has done their time. If the Greens had their way, there would be no punishment, and this thug would simply be put in some sort of program to control their temper. That is honestly the sort of thing that they would want. That is why they're dangerous. That is why they should not be allowed anywhere near government. And I quote the Greens, but there's other examples. So, if you live in the Darlaston area, I hope you will be a decent human being and unreservedly denounce this. If you know this scumbag, well, she's been arrested, so it's not a case that she needs to be found. But if you know someone who behaves this way, you can contact the police anonymously. There's quite secure programs in place these days to contact the police anonymously. I know people fear retribution and so on, but society has to stand up to criminals. It has to.